Okay, we got it.
We got it. I'm so, so sorry that took so long.
No problem.
It's a little different this time than it was last time. Hi, Cleve. Miss Smithers wanted to say hi. Okay, thank everybody for joining us this morning and being so very patient. I just want to, if you haven't already met Kahlief Steele, he's here to talk to us today about graphic design. He's a Northwest Arkansas kid who is doing really well and really successful. And really good at what he does. So I'll turn it over to him. And once again, if you've got any questions, just type them in the chat as we go. And he is got a presentation ready for us. Go ahead, Cleve.
All right, everybody. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. I love talking about graphic design because there's so many different things that you can do with it. And so I just want to talk a little bit about myself first. It's kind of a selfish thing, but let me talk just so we can be on the same level, so we can be friends, okay? So let me swap over my screen real fast. Okay. You should see an orange screen. And if you do, that means everything's working. So my name is Kahlief Steele. I'm a graphic designer. I'm also a professional party goer. So if you ever have a wedding, if you ever have a bar mitzvah, invite me. I will dance and get everybody on the dance floor. It'll be awesome. That's my email. That's my Instagram handle if you want to see more of my stuff. All right. So again, let's talk about me. Long story short, I married my high school sweetheart. We went to Gravitt, actually. You'll see that in a second. And we have this beautiful baby girl. Her name is Marigold. She's amazing. Even when she poops at 3 in the morning and I have to change her diaper, it's still it's the only reason I would want to be up at 3 in the morning. But anyway, they're cool. And like I said, I graduated from Gravitt High School in 2011. That was before half of you were born, I'm sure. It makes me feel so old. I know you guys aren't that young, but that's me, in case you couldn't see. That's, yeah, right there. Not this guy, not that guy, not that guy, this guy. Yeah, I graduated from Gravitt in 2011. Go Lions, GHS, Lion Pride, all that. And then I graduated from Missouri Southern State University in 2015. They're also the Lions, so I just went from Lions to Lions, which was pretty dope. And I actually graduated from there with a BFA, a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Graphic Design, and then also a minor in marketing. So those are the basics about me. As a kid, I always loved art. I always loved drawing. I always loved coloring. I loved doodling. When I was 9 or 10, I decided that I was going to be a nature photographer and was going to be in like National Geographic and everything. And I remember I took a picture of it was the most out of focus picture of this worm, and it was just the worst. It was just the absolute worst picture, but I was so proud of it. I was like, this is what's going to launch my career. Everyone's going to love me. That didn't happen. But as I grew up, I was like, I love making art, but eventually I realized that it was kind of difficult to make a living as an artist. There are a lot of factors that go into it, and sometimes, I mean, they call it starving artists for a reason. Like, typically, you do not have a lot of money, and therefore, it is a little bit difficult to eat. And so when I figured that out, my face kind of looked like this. I was like, wait a minute, what? This is not good. This is actually a picture from me. I guess I didn't realize they were taking a picture or something. Me and my friends. Everybody else looks great, but me, not my most flattering picture. But I realized that it was kind of difficult to make a living as an artist, and so that's why I went into graphic design. Graphic design is great because you can still be creative without and you still get to make a paycheck, which is really good. People pay you on a regular basis. You get benefits. You can have a retirement plan. All of these things are a little bit easier to live than just painting. And so that's why I really like graphic design. So some of the things that you can do with graphic design, these are the things that I do on a regular basis, pretty much every day. I make logos. So I made this logo for a sandwich shop in Conway. Cross Creek Sandwich Shop. They have amazing, amazing food. It is so good. I also redid the logo for Neosho School District in Missouri. And I have to say, this is probably the moment where I was like, I've finally made it as a graphic designer because somebody, you know how some schools may copy a certain element from like a professional sports team. For example, I know Gravit uses the Green Bay Packers G. It's a little bit different. And they also sometimes use the Detroit Lions lion. But I will have you know that somebody in Connecticut copied my Neosho Wildcats logo. And now this dude with like the most impractical camo ever is wearing my logo, even though he just ripped it from the internet. So that's how I know I've made it. I might as well retire now because there's no getting past this moment. This is the top. So outside of logos, I also do websites. I designed this website for Diversity NWA. It's just a listing site for all these amazing diversity-led restaurants and organizations. I also made a website for print graphics. They print graphics, believe it or not. So lots of vibrant colors going on here. I also do merch. So these are some t-shirts that I've designed for a couple of youth groups in the area. And I also do packaging. This is for a candy shop. They make candies and chocolates, and they wanted something that was kind of classy. Their old branding was just not good at all. Like it's something that you would expect your grandma to like, which is typically not a good thing. I also do social media graphics. So I made this for UCA in Conway. This was a series of like 30 different graphics that I made that they were able to post on Instagram and Facebook and all the rest of their social media channels. Moving on from there, I also here's some other social media graphics I made. My wife owns a jewelry making business, and so I was able to make some graphics for her to put on Instagram. I also have dabbled in animation a little bit, and here's an animation that I've made. Pretty fire, if I do say so myself, because it's like fire. You get it? Okay. Yeah, we're there. Here's another one that I've done. If I can figure out how to pause this. Yep, there we go. Today is actually World Adoption Day. I'm adopted. I was adopted when I was 3 days old, and so I made this a couple of years ago just to pay tribute to my mom and dad who adopted me. Beautiful. Wow. If you guys, I think there are tissues located around the room if you all need some tissues after watching that. Like that's just so precious and sweet. All right, let's move into the actual education part of it and what you need to know and what you need to study in order to become a graphic designer. So typically you would look for an associate's or a bachelor's degree in graphic design. You also might see it as multimedia design or UX design. That just stands for user experience design. All of this to say, you can also get your master's in design and graphic design. You can also get a doctorate in graphic design. I've considered that so I can be called Dr. Steele, which would be pretty cool. And people would be like, hey, can you come heal me? And I'm like, yeah, if you need a logo, I can heal you through the power of graphics, but not actually. But I thought that'd be kind of cool. So there are all sorts of ways that you can study graphic design, but all of that to say, it's not a requirement. If your portfolio is good, then people will hire you, even if you're self-taught. One of my best friends and coworkers that I worked with for 5 years, he never got a graphic design degree, and he could design loops around me. He was just so good at specifically making like print layout things like brochures and magazines. He was just so good at that sort of thing, and he never went to college for graphic design. He just got a job when he graduated high school and has just been slowly working his way up. And especially now with like YouTube and Skillshare, there are a lot of ways that you can get educated in the design field without going to college. So something to think about. Moving on from that, so some similar jobs that you would be able to pursue if you had a graphic design degree, or if you wanted to go into graphic design. UX or UI design, that's user experience or user interface design, or basically like web design or app design. So if you were wanting to get into the nitty gritty of designing a website or designing like how people use an app, you could do that with graphic design. You can also really specialize in social media content creation. Like I was just looking yesterday, and there's so many jobs out there for people, like literally people are getting hired to make TikToks for giant companies. So if you wanted to do that, you could do that with a graphic design degree. Or if you just wanted to make graphic design, make design for a university or something. One of my first jobs, actually when I was still in college, was working for Missouri Southern's University Relations and Marketing Department, which basically is a whole lot of words to say that they did their social media, all their billboards, any sort of TV spot or like commercial. I had a hand in helping out with all of those things. So that was really cool. You can also specialize in animation. So if you wanted to be a motion graphics artist, I'm really inspired by a lot of what like the NFL and the NBA are putting out recently, like with their commercials and everything, all of the graphics that fly on screen. You could be a part of making that. Or if you really wanted to just lean heavily into illustration, you could do that. There are a lot of people who are graphic designers, but also really good illustrators. And so they might have deals with book companies in order to make like children's books, or pictures for like technical drawings. There are a lot of different things that you can do with graphic design. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy about it, like I said. So moving on from there, here's a very small list of who actually needs designers. Okay. So hospitals need designers to make pamphlets and brochures and flyers in order to communicate a message. Sports teams need logos, they need jersey designs, they need basically everything. Nonprofits, so if there's an organization that you want to support, I guarantee you that they need a graphic designer, and they don't make enough money or don't devote enough money towards design or marketing in order to have one on staff all the time. You could definitely work for a nonprofit. Schools also need designers in some form or fashion in order to, again, communicate messages. Big businesses, also, I'm going to hop back up to freelance here in a second, but big businesses, if you are wanting to work in a skyscraper in New York City, there's definitely a business that can give you office space and wants to hire you. And also ad agencies. So if there is my job right now, and actually my first job, has been in an agency setting. And basically what that means is that people will come to us and be like, hey, I need a logo, or hey, I need a website, or hey, I need a commercial, and we will carry that out for them. And so agency life is really fun because you always get to work on something new every day. Like today, I think on my list I have there's a website for a restaurant. A nonprofit has a donor banquet that they need a brochure for. I think there's a sports team that needs a logo or something. Maybe like a gym. There are a lot of other, I don't know. I need to look and see what I got going on today. But there are so many different things that you can do. And working in an agency is specifically fun because you get that steady stream of new things every single day. But if you wanted to, you could be a freelancer. And that basically means that you work from home, you set your own hours. You can work at a coffee shop, you could work at a like a shared office space if you wanted to. And basically, you would just do work as it comes in for whoever needs it. So you would reach out to these companies and be like, hey, do you need a designer? Maybe you don't want to hire one full time, but is there like a project that I can help you out with? And so that is basically what freelance is. And I freelance for a little bit. I actually still freelance a little bit on the side. There are a few projects that I currently you know, work on when I'm waiting for my daughter to wake up in the middle of the night, that sort of thing. Basically, anywhere that makes money needs a graphic designer, because they're 100% they're going to want to communicate a message to somebody, and that's what graphic design is all about. Even businesses that only sell to other businesses need a designer. If it's like a catalog that they need designed, if it is a website that they need completed, if they need like business cards, all of these businesses who are selling to other businesses are going to need a designer. So basically, like I said, anywhere that makes money needs a designer. So if you're wondering, like, and I don't know if you all have seen like the AI stuff that has come out recently, like with Dolly and everything. It is very cool, but it's not going to remove the hand of a designer from a specific project. It's great for inspiration. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, so let's talk about the thing that you're probably most curious about. Money. So your starting salary or your hourly rate depends on where you want to live. So if you were wanting to live in a place like, for example, I live in Bella Vista. So if I wanted to live in a place like Bentonville or even a place a little bit smaller than Bentonville, that would change my hourly rate or my salary versus if I wanted to live in a place like Los Angeles or Chicago or New York. People, because the cost of living is higher there, people will pay more for you to be there. So that all kind of changes a little bit. So in a rural or a small town, you will probably start out at $30,000 to $40,000 a year. When I started at my first company in Joplin, which is around, it is smaller. I'm trying to think of a town that it is similar to. It's not a big town. Suffice to say, there's not a whole lot of people there. Like it's bigger than probably most of our towns, but it's not as big as like a Bentonville or a Little Rock or a Fort Smith. But I started out there, and this was almost 7 or 8 years ago. I started there at $28,000 a year. And over the course of my time there, I eventually grew that. Over the course of like 4 or 5 years, I grew that to about $40,000 a year. In a big city, however, if you were interested in, like I said, living in like a New York or a Los Angeles, you would probably be starting out at like 60,000 to 80,000 a year. So again, you also have to deal with living in a big city and paying the price that paying like $3,000 a month for rent in a studio apartment, but you'd be making more money. Eventually, as you progress through your career, these numbers will obviously change. Okay, so a creative director is one of the top positions that you can have in the graphic design career field. So in a small town, it would start from maybe like 60,000 to 80,000 a year. And then in a big city, a creative director salary would actually be in the triple figures. So 100K to 150K. So there are a lot of different ways that you can, again, make money while also still being creative, which is another thing that I love about graphic design. So some advancement opportunities, how you would progress through this field. Again, I want to go back and say that when I first started, I was working as a junior designer, and that's basically like a level 1 designer. This was me. This was me in 2015. I was looking great. I had a nice greasy hairstyle. It was awesome. So that was me as a junior designer, very low on the totem pole. Over the next 3 or 4 years, I actually rose up the ranks to be a creative director. So what that meant, instead of basically taking the scrap work that other people didn't want to work on, or projects that people were maybe too busy to actually work on, I was actually the one holding meetings with clients. I also was part of like brainstorming larger strategy pictures for not only our clients but for the company. So I had a lot more responsibility. I was also tasked with training the other junior designers on staff and reviewing their work to make sure that everything looked okay. Because there were a lot of times when it did not look okay, and I had to step in and be like, "Yo, this is." We always had this thing that was called a softening statement. So if you ever have to say anything bad about somebody, make sure that you compliment them first, or tell them one thing that they're doing good. Like, "Hey, I like your shoes today. Your design is terrible." It makes things much better. But as a creative director, I had to do those sorts of things. Okay, I had to. There were a lot less actually making the logo and a lot more teaching people how to make the logo, or having meetings with clients on how to make the logo, that sort of thing. So typically, how you would advance through these are some job titles that you might see. So you might start out as a production designer, and that is again very like grunt work. You are renaming files, you're saving them, you're exporting them. It is all very basic type of stuff. But then you might get promoted to a junior graphic designer, or you might start as a junior graphic designer like I did. From there, you would go to a senior graphic designer, and then you would go to an art director. And with an art director position, you would still be doing a lot of the creative things on a regular basis, but you would actually also still be able to take meetings with clients. You might be sending more emails back and forth with them. There's a lot more responsibility that you have in terms of the business side of things. And then when you get to creative director, like I said, you are at the top of the food chain, essentially. Basically, everything will run through you. Some companies might have more than one creative director, but you will be in charge for multiple clients as a whole. And you will have to correspond with them, make sure that they have exactly what they need. Maybe they come to you and they're like, I need a business card, but they actually need a logo or a brochure. That is more of your job there. And then you would actually tell your junior graphic designers to actually do the work that you have come up with. You're like, well, I think that if we made the logo like this would look good. And then your junior designers would actually do it. So it's kind of fun. I also want to say on this that having a minor in marketing was really helpful for me I think it was really helpful for me to progress so quickly, just because I actually understood all of the things that it took to go, like the business side of things. Like, it's one thing to have the creative side of things, but being able to focus on the business side of things, working on businesses' profit margins, making sure that their target market, and just knowing that vocabulary was really helpful. So if it is something that you're wanting to do, if you're wanting to be a creative director, if you're wanting to go through the ranks, I would definitely suggest getting a minor in marketing, or at least taking some marketing classes if you go to college. Okay, so where do I work now? That is the big question. So I work at Silver Lake Design Studio. This is a studio out of Conway, Arkansas, which is about 30 minutes west of Little Rock. And as you see, I am not in Conway right now. I'm in my house in Bella Vista. A great part about graphic design is that you can work remote. There are a lot of companies who will pay you even if you are not in their office. So if this is a situation where I know there are several people that work at Silver Lake with me who might go to Colorado or might go to Texas during the week, but they will just work on their projects like in the car or on the plane, and then upload them later. Like, that is 100% a thing that you could do, which is really cool. On top of that, there are like I was just looking yesterday for just at different jobs, and there was like a job for ESPN that was hiring, that was a remote position. So if I wanted to work on like graphics for the NFL or something, I could do that remotely. So graphic design provides you with a lot of flexibility that you definitely can't have in other jobs. For example, like if you were a doctor, like you can't perform doctorly duties remotely. It's a little bit more difficult to do surgery on somebody from 1,000 miles away right now. They might have some technology with like robots and stuff, but not right now. So remote working, again, a very great perk of being a graphic designer. Like I said, I work for Silver Lake. They are a branding agency that really focuses on small businesses and nonprofits. My old job, I've been working there for about 2 years. The job that I had before Silver Lake was at Little Burn Marketing in Joplin. They focused more on like B2B or business to business selling. And so they would do a lot of work with companies who worked with like Coca-Cola or Sonos, the speaker company. I think they did one that worked with, I'm pretty sure that they did one that worked with like ABC. So they did more like giant companies. That job was a little more stressful than the one that I have now. I had to drive 2 hours every day, and it was not a great way to spend my time. But I learned a lot there, and it was a lot of fun. But I really loved my time here at Silver Lake. If you want to check them out, their Instagram handle is at Team Silver Lake, and it's silverlakestudio.com if you want to check out their website. I also teach a class at the Creative Institute of Central Arkansas. So the Creative Institute is a gap year program. So if you're a senior or if you are a junior looking at becoming a senior next year, and you're like, I am not really sure that I want to commit to a 4-year degree at this point, but I want to do something creative, then the Creative Institute is basically the perfect thing for you. It basically what we do. It's a very intensive program, but we work with a lot of industry professionals, including myself, to train you on things like email and website design, marketing. There's also a copywriting class, so if you wanted to learn how to write blogs properly, that sort of thing. There's also a photography class. There's a videography class. There's a graphic design class. All of these things over the course of a year. And then from there, we have students that have gone through the program and they've actually landed jobs at different places and internships at different places in the field of graphic design, which is awesome. And so if that's something that you're interested in, you can follow along at Creative Institute AR on Instagram and I think on TikTok. And then also you can check out their website, creativeinstitutear.org. Like I said, I am teaching a class there this semester and next semester. This semester is Intro to Email and Web Design, and then next semester will be a graphic design class. And I think with that, y'all, that's all I got. So thank you. Does anybody have any questions? I see one hand in Lincoln. I see 2 hands. I also can't hear you, so.
All right, Colby.
Do you do any graphic design for like
You gotta
video
talk.
games or such things like that?
Come here. Colby.
That is a great question. I do. I've not done. Well, here's the thing. So in college, I would do a lot of. I would do. There's several logos that I've made for like indie developers. So smaller organization or smaller studios, maybe like 3 or 4 people. They've come to me, and especially in college, this was great because I needed money and I didn't want to eat ramen all the time. Occasionally, I wanted to eat like a hot dog or something much more expensive than ramen. And so I would actually, they would reach out to me and be like, "Hey, can you make us this logo?" And yeah, so those are probably, there have been a couple of games that I've made graphics for that are on like Steam and stuff, but nothing like huge. But again, like EA and Epic, like all of those companies need graphic designers in basically all of those ways that I talked about before. Like they need animators, they need illustrators, they need people to work on the design of like the interfaces within games and everything. So that is definitely a place that you could pursue if you wanted to get into graphic design. You could definitely go into the gaming field. Good question.
Do you see the chat box or Kahlief?
I do now. Yes, let me pull
Okay.
it.
Okay. Some Greenland question said, what other mediums do you use on your own time?
I like to, it's interesting. I try my hardest to carve out time to do other things, and it is difficult because I'm very busy. But some of the things that I do like to do, I like to draw with like charcoal. I took several drawing classes in college, and they were just therapeutic for me. So I like to draw with charcoal. I also like to paint with gouache sometimes. So those are like some physical mediums that I do. I also like to bake. My parents are bakers, and I kind of have learned to bake from them. And so that's another really interesting creative outlet that you might not first expect. But baking is really good for me. Um, that's pretty much it. I don't have a lot of free time, but those I feel like those are answers. Um, this person says, would this help someone interested in a career doing YouTube? And yes, 100%. YouTubers, even small YouTubers, will reach out to people and be like, hey, do you need a logo? Or hey, can I get a logo from you? Can you help me with like if you're wanting to maybe like stream on Twitch? There are a lot of people on Twitch who need like bumpers and different like stream graphics that pop on screen. Those types of things are definitely needed, and especially as YouTube and Twitch begin to continue to grow more popular, those types of things are only going to become more needed. So definitely, if you're interested in getting on YouTube, any sort of graphic design experience will be helpful because that's something that you will need. This next question is, what kind of software do you use? And I use basically the entire Adobe suite. So that's going to be your more known programs like Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator. If I'm wanting to make like if I'm wanting to make like a brochure or a book, then I would use InDesign, Adobe InDesign. I also I also use After Effects for like motion, and I also use Premiere if I ever have to edit like a video. So basically everything that Adobe offers, I use in some form or fashion. Um, let's see, reading through here. What is a reasonable price to charge for art commissions if you are still in school and are self-taught? That's a good question. I think that you have to find the balance between knowing your worth and also being realistic about what people are going to pay and how much you need the money. There were several times when I was growing up and through college that I would do things either for free. I don't recommend that if you can get past it. I do a lot of things for free for people just because I appreciate what they're doing or support their mission. But I would say specifically, depending on, I don't know what type of art is being commissioned, but I would just like whenever you're making art, whenever you're making design or anything, just think of your how much time it takes you to spend on it. So if something took you like 10 hours to work on, or maybe 5 hours to work on, and then give yourself a decent hourly rate and just start it at maybe like $10 an hour. And if it sells, great. If it doesn't sell, then you might, and if it doesn't sell and if you need the money, then you might want to lower it a little bit. But I would say like $10 is a great place to start out. And then if it like sells instantly, then jack that thing up. Okay. Like do 25 an hour or something. That's a good question. Greenland asked, do you physically draw out your design or only do things digitally? All of my designs start with a sketch. I'm trying to see if I have a sketchbook around here somewhere. Okay, so yeah, like I said, all of my designs start out with a sketch. So here's a sketch that I did for a little animation project I was working on for Good Burger, not for Good Burger, but in honor of Good Burger. I also have done some sketches for like sometimes I'll need different elements. So for this one, I specifically needed like a pine tree, and so I made like 15 different variations of them. Took a picture and then imported them into my design, and that turned out really well. So a lot of my projects will start out with a sketch just because it's easier to draw things out really quickly and erase rather than having to open up a program and get into the nitty-gritty of that. Let's see here. Next question. How much does a graphic or a logo sell for, and how does it go up in price from there depending on size? So a great way to look at this is what is the business that you are selling, or what is the business that you're designing for, and how much money are they going to make from your logo or from your design that you sell to them? For example, if I were to design a logo for my sister had a business and she really wasn't making a lot of money. She was just starting out. I would charge her differently than I would charge like ESPN. Like if ESPN came to me and was like, "Hey, can you make us a logo?" I would be like, "Yeah." The bidding starts at literally like $5,000. Like that is what I will charge you. If my sister came to me, I'd be like, "Yeah, I can do it." If it was my sister, I'd probably do it for free, honestly. But it would be like maybe like $50, or even like a lower end might be like $250. And it also depends, like if you are doing just the logo, or if you're also doing things like social media cover photos, if you are doing email templates, that sort of thing. So if you can package all of those things together, you can charge more because you're providing more value to your potential client. Let's see here. Where did I miss out? Okay. This person asked, what DAW or workspace software do you use? A DAW, I believe, is more related to like audio. I use whenever I occasionally will make music, which I guess is another medium. But I use FL Studio. That's my DAW. And then the other software I've talked about already. This person asked, can you touch on some strengths and weaknesses that you personally have regarding graphic design? That is a question that I was not prepared to handle today, and now I have to really get on to myself about all the bad things I do. One thing that I'm terrible at in my entire life is time management, and it's usually a little bit better in my actual job. But I will often think that a project will only take this long, but it actually ends up taking like this long. And that is an issue, especially if you are quoting people or charging people based on an hourly rate. You might say that something will take 5 hours, but it takes you 15 hours, and your client is going to be like you can't go to the client at that point and be like, actually, it's going to be triple what I originally said that it is. So sorry. Like you can't do that. You can, but it's not a good look. So that's one thing that I struggle with. Another thing that I personally struggle with is illustration. I just have not, I used to be a lot better at it, but I have not been able to practice as much as I want. And so a lot of those skills have kind of left me, which is unfortunate because a lot of companies are looking for that hand-drawn type of design these days. So that's something that I'm going to be working on. We also have what kind of equipment is required. So right now, you can get started on pretty much anything, honestly. I have used a super basic laptop before. I'm working off of a desktop right now. I have one monitor here, one monitor here. And my desktop, I think, has I think it's like 128 gigabytes of RAM. It's a pretty beefy workstation, but I just wanted to have something that I wouldn't have to worry about breaking since I'm working remotely. But you can basically use anything. Like if you have a laptop right now, you can throw Photoshop on that. There are some free alternatives to Photoshop, and you can get started that way. There are also tools like Canva that are directly built into like a website, and so you can do design on there as well. If there are some basic things that you need to have done on there, you can do that. So you can, like I said, you can basically get started on anything. Like even Canva is available on your phones and like tablets and stuff. So if you wanted to get started with design on your phone, you could. The kind of microphone I'm using, this is a super, I think it's like $20 on Amazon. It's a newer NW800, but it comes with a windsock or whatever. But I took it off because I like the gold, and hopefully it doesn't like short circuit and electrocute me. That would not be a great way to end this presentation. For me, it might be entertaining for you. I don't know. The last question that I see here is what kind of artistic equipment would you recommend, and specifically equipment that is budget friendly for students? So if you are wanting to continue growing your artistic skills, I always, as a college student, I basically lived at Hobby Lobby. So they have very cheap paints, they have very cheap tablets, like sketch pads. All of those things are great. So go to Hobby Lobby, buy all the things, listen to jazz renditions of 90s Christian contemporary music. It's great. You can also, as far as like things that I am using, like I said, you can get started with pretty much anything. As one thing that actually has really helped me. So if you guys are like thinking of like what to buy, like what to ask for Christmas, or maybe you have a birthday coming up, I use a Wacom tablet. A lot of the time, it's just like a tablet that connects to your computer, and then you can draw on it. And that is a great way if I don't want to use a sketchbook exactly. I can still have sketches inside of my programs. And sometimes it's even a little bit easier to manipulate programs with a pen as opposed to like clicking with a mouse. So definitely, if you're interested in pursuing this more, I recommend a Wacom tablet. They're really great and really helpful. Outside of that, always sketchbooks. I recommend those. If there are, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, a mouse and a keyboard. If you just have a laptop, then it's sometimes hard to do design on a trackpad. But if you have a mouse, it usually makes it a little bit easier. This person says, "Can we listen to some of your music?" And I say no because it's really bad. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just not. It's not good. And as a creative, like if somebody says something bad about my work, I will go into a spiral and cry in my closet for months. So no, but good question. Thanks for asking.
That was actually one of the questions I was going to ask about the mentally kind of demanding part of your job.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as a when I first started in when I was a junior designer and I got hired by Little Bird, I was basically at the top of my class, like in college and everything. So I got a bunch of scholarships, and was generally well respected by a lot of people. I think maybe some people hated me. I don't know. But I going into that environment was such an eye-opening experience because it really taught me that so much of my stuff was not good. And so as a creative, especially as a designer, you have to learn to develop a thick skin and not become emotionally attached to the things that we create. And that is something that I've slowly been learning, and I feel like I'm pretty good when it comes to graphic design. But when it comes to my music, I'm still very thin-skinned, and my feelings will get hurt.
I think the last question I had was, when you work for an agency, are you allowed to work on the side on projects, or is it kind of proprietary where everything you do is owned by them? Like, or can you do like side work and sell that on the side?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I also want to talk very briefly about the difference between an agency position and an in-house position. So an in-house position would be like if I was working for a hospital and then I would only work on hospital things all day, which is fine for some people, not for me. But for an agency, like I said, there are a bunch of things coming at you. Typically, with a lot of agencies, they do not want you to be working on things that could otherwise go to them. So if there was a situation where we were working for, like the agency had a chiropractor that was about to ask them for a logo, they wouldn't want me to go out and ask them like, hey, can I make your logo for cheaper? Like that's not okay. Also, if there are competing businesses. So if there's a if there was another chiropractor in town, they wouldn't want me to work for them. Generally speaking, some agencies will have those clauses in your contract, basically saying like no outside projects whatsoever. And then there are other much cooler ones who are like, yeah, as long as you don't mess with our turf, essentially, you can do whatever you want.
So that would probably be a good place to start if you wanted to get out on your own, is doing those side projects.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's one of the things that is so highly recommended. Like you see a lot of people who are like, I'm taking the jump and diving headfirst into freelance, but they have been also nurturing and growing their client list on their own side for the last like 2 or 3 years. They just don't show that. And so, yeah, one of the biggest things that I've seen recommended if you are wanting to go freelance is to get a job somewhere that pays the bills and that you can continue practicing graphic design, but also growing your own client list on the side. That way, whenever you do go full-time into freelance, you have a little bit of a cushion there without having to just dive right in and hope you float.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, I think if nobody has any other questions, you gave us a lot of information, and I hope it was helpful to a lot of our students that are interested in this area in graphic design. I'm glad we recorded this because I know students in my school were definitely interested that couldn't be here. But I appreciate you giving up so much of your time. Sounds like you're a very busy man. And I look forward to checking these things out. Thank you for your time, though. And
Yeah,
we will go ahead and conclude this. Thank you.
absolutely. I appreciate you all for having me. And like I said, if you have any questions, I'm going to throw my Instagram back up here really quick. If you have any questions or if you have just want to see more of my stuff, I'm at Kahlief_. There's some dude who has Kahlief without an underscore, and he hasn't posted in like 10 years. And I've been constantly reporting him to Instagram, hoping that he will get his account shut down so I can steal it. Or you can email me at kahlief.com. But yeah, thank you for having me. This is great.
Yeah, we're very thankful.
Say thank you.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good day.